Have you ever found yourself lying awake at night, consumed by worry, asking yourself, what if this happens? What if that goes wrong? The weight of uncertainty can be overwhelming. But let me tell you something today that will change the way you approach life. You cannot control everything, and that's okay. The truth is, worrying does not change a thing. It only steals your peace and traps you in a cycle of fear. But there is a way out of this cycle, trusting God with what you cannot control. Trust is not something that just happens. It is a choice we must make daily. Trusting God is not passive, it requires action. It's an active decision to rest in the fact that God knows what He's doing with your life. When you choose to trust Him, you are declaring that you believe His plans are good and perfect, and that He is in control, even when you cannot see it. Worry is the opposite of faith. It's a reflection of doubt, and it paralyzes you. It keeps you focused on your problems instead of the God who can solve them. Faith, on the other hand, takes your eyes off the problem and places them firmly on God. Faith says, I don't know what will happen, but I know God is with me. When you trust God, you stop worrying because you understand that God's power is greater than your problems. The Bible makes it clear that God is in control of everything. Psalm 103:19 tells us the Lord has established His throne in the heavens and His kingdom rules over all. This means nothing is outside His reach. Whether it's the course of nations or the details of your life, God is sovereign. When you surrender control, you are embracing His sovereignty and recognizing that He has everything under control, even when you can't see the way. The moment you release control over what you cannot change is the moment you experience peace. Jesus Himself said in Matthew 11:28, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. When you stop trying to control every situation, you allow God to step in and carry the burden for you. Trusting God is about saying, Lord, I cannot handle this on my own, but I know you can. So the Bible is filled with commands to trust God. Proverbs 3:5-6 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your path straight. This is not a suggestion, it's a command. God calls us to trust Him completely with all of our hearts. When we trust Him, He promises to guide us, direct our steps, and make our path straight. Living free from anxiety is not about ignoring your problems, but about facing them with the assurance that God is with you. Philippians 4:6-7 encourages us, saying, do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation by prayer and petition with thanksgiving present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. The key is prayer, bringing your worries to God and letting His peace guard your heart. Trusting God means trusting in His provision, even when things seem uncertain. Remember the Israelites in the wilderness. God provided for them every single day. He sent manna from heaven, gave them water from a rock, and led them with a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. If God can provide for millions of people in the desert, He can surely provide for you no matter what you're going through. Worry is a heavy burden. It weighs down your spirit, clouds your judgment, and robs you of your peace. Jesus tells us in Matthew 6:34, therefore do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. Worry does nothing but add more stress to your life. When you trust God, He lifts that burden from you and fills you with His peace. Trust is not something that just happens by itself. It is a decision, a conscious choice that you make every single day. It's easy to think that trust is automatic or natural, but in reality, trusting God is an active decision that requires your will. Every time you face a challenge, a fear, or an obstacle, you have the choice to trust or to worry, to rely on your own understanding, or to lean on God. This is where the power of trust truly lies. When you trust in God, you're choosing to place your confidence in His ability to guide you through every circumstance. Trusting Him isn't about knowing all the details of what will happen next, but rather about believing that He is sovereign and in control, even when things seem out of your hands. It's about understanding that God's perspective is far greater than ours, and His timing is always perfect, even when we can't see it. You see, trust is not passive. Trusting God means choosing to rest in His promises no matter what your circumstances look like. It's not simply saying, I trust God, but living it out through your actions, your decisions, and your mindset. The moment you decide to trust Him, you're making a commitment to surrender control of your worries, your fears, and your doubts into His capable hands. This active trust will carry you through the storms of life because it is rooted in the deep understanding that God is always with you, working for your good. His kind of trust brings freedom because it frees you from the chains of anxiety and fear. When you trust God, you don't have to hold on to the illusion of control because you know He is always working on your behalf. The power of trust is that it transforms your mindset from one of worry to one of peace. It's not just about believing God can help you. It's about actively choosing to trust that He will. And in that trust, you find a peace that surpasses all understanding. A peace that keeps your heart and mind secure in Him. Worry and faith cannot coexist. They are opposites and they pull you in two different directions. Worry focuses your attention on problems, possibilities, and fears, whereas faith focuses your attention on God's power, promises, and presence. So when you worry, you are essentially telling yourself that you believe in the worst outcome, that you are certain things will go wrong. You allow fear and doubt to control your mind, and in doing so, you block the ability to see the solutions that are right in front of you. Faith, on the other hand, does not ignore the reality of difficulties. Faith acknowledges the presence of challenges, but chooses to focus on the God who is greater than any problem. Faith says, even though I don't understand what's happening, I trust that God is in control and He is working things out for my good. It's not about having all the answers or seeing the complete picture. It's about trusting the one who holds the future in His hands. When you choose faith over worry, you make a decision to place your confidence in God's character and His ability to bring you through any situation. The Bible gives us numerous examples of faith overcoming worry. Take, for instance, the story of Abraham. When God called him to leave his home and go to an unknown land, Abraham didn't know exactly where he was going, but he trusted God. His faith was not rooted in certainty of the outcome, but in the certainty that God would fulfill His promises. This kind of faith allows you to move forward even when you don't have all the answers because you trust in God's faithfulness. So worry makes you feel as though you must control every detail. But faith releases you from that burden. It helps you understand that while you cannot control everything, you can trust the one who does. The act of choosing faith over worry is not a one-time decision, but a daily discipline. Every day you must make a choice. Will you focus on your problems, or will you choose to trust in God's plan? When you choose faith, you are aligning yourself with God's will and purpose, and that trust begins to shape how you live and respond to challenges. Faith brings peace because it shifts your focus from your own strength to God's. It gives you the confidence to rest, knowing that God is working on your behalf even when things look uncertain. Faith doesn't eliminate difficulties, but it changes how you face them. Instead of being consumed by worry, you face life's challenges with the peace that comes from knowing God is with you every step of the way. When you trust God, you are free to stop worrying and allow His peace to guard your heart and mind. God's sovereignty is the foundational truth that should bring you the greatest peace in life. It means that God is completely in control of everything that happens in the universe. There is nothing that escapes His notice or His power. Even from the smallest details of your personal life to the grand events of world history, everything is within His sovereign will. When you understand God's sovereignty, you realize that nothing happens without His permission or outside of His plan. And that includes the circumstances you are facing today. The Bible speaks clearly about God's sovereignty. Psalm 103:19 declares, "The Lord has established His throne in the heavens, and His kingdom rules over all." This verse affirms that God's rule is universal, and His authority is unlimited. Nothing in this world happens by chance. Everything is under the control of a God who knows the beginning from the end. No matter what you are going through, God is in control. Whether you face financial difficulties, health issues, or emotional struggles, God's sovereignty assures you that He has a plan, and He is working everything together for your good. Romans 8:28. When we fully grasp that God is sovereign, it changes how we respond to life's challenges. We don't have to be afraid of the unknown or the unexpected, because we know that our Heavenly Father holds the future in His hands. Even the Lord who created the heavens and the earth is also the one who is guiding your steps. Jeremiah 29:11 reminds us, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for welfare and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope." When you trust in God's sovereignty, you can rest assured that He has already mapped out a path for you, a path that leads to fulfillment and purpose. This understanding of God's sovereignty should give you peace. Because no matter how difficult your circumstances, they are not outside of God's control. Even when life seems uncertain or unfair, you can take comfort in knowing that God is not distant or passive. He is actively working in every situation, bringing about His purposes in ways that we might not always see or understand. When you trust in God's sovereignty, you can face life's challenges with confidence, knowing that He is always in control and that His plan for you will ultimately lead to good. When you surrender your worries to God, you are embracing the power of faith that releases you from the burden of control. Many of us struggle with the desire to control every detail of our lives, but it is important to recognize that there are things beyond our control, and trying to control them only leads to anxiety and stress. The more we try to manage everything, the more we feel the weight of the world on our shoulders. However, God calls us to release that burden and trust Him with what we cannot control. In Matthew 6:25-27, Jesus instructs us, "Therefore I tell you, do not be anxious about your life. And which of you by being anxious can add a single hour to his span of life?" These words remind us that worry does not change the outcome of our situations. It doesn't add anything of value to our lives, but rather robs us of peace and joy. Worry makes us focus on the what ifs and the could be's instead of living in the reality that God is in control and working things out for us. Surrendering your worries means recognizing that God is more than capable of handling the things you can't. He doesn't want you to carry the weight of every concern. Instead, He invites you to bring your burdens to Him in prayer, knowing that He cares for you deeply. Philippians 4:6-7 says, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." When you choose to surrender, you choose peace that transcends your understanding and guards your mind from the anxiety that often comes with worry. Surrendering doesn't mean giving up or being passive. It means choosing to trust God with what you can't control and releasing the need to figure it all out on your own. God's power is made perfect in your weakness. The more you let go of control, the more you open the door for God to move on your behalf. He wants you to rely on His strength, not your own. Surrender also brings freedom. When you let go of control, you free yourself from the constant cycle of worry. No longer do you need to feel overwhelmed by things that are beyond your power. Instead of letting stress take root in your heart, you allow God to handle the things that concern you. This act of trust is liberating because it's a recognition that while we may not have the answers, God always does. The more we trust Him with the unknowns of life, the more we experience His peace that surpasses all understanding. When we surrender our worries, we make room for God to work in ways we could never imagine. Trusting God with what you cannot control involves a deep understanding that His ways are always higher than ours. One of the most powerful truths in the Bible is that God's plan for your life is always better than anything you could ever imagine. Often we try to dictate the course of our lives, planning every detail, controlling every outcome. Yet God's wisdom surpasses our limited understanding, and His timing is perfect. We must learn to trust that when things don't unfold the way we want them to, it's because God has a better plan. Proverbs 3:5-6 emphasizes this principle, saying, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make straight your paths." This scripture teaches us that true trust in God involves surrendering our understanding, which is often limited, and acknowledging that God's direction is the one that will lead to our ultimate good. The path that God has laid out for us is not always the one we would choose, but it is always the one that leads to our growth, purpose, and fulfillment. God's plan may not always align with our preferences or our timing. There may be moments when the road ahead seems unclear, or when life presents obstacles that we didn't anticipate. But trusting that God's plan is greater means accepting that even in those moments of uncertainty, He is still in control. His wisdom is infinite, and He can see the outcome even when we can only see the immediate challenges. For instance, the story of Joseph in the Bible provides a clear example of trusting God's plan even when circumstances seem bleak. Joseph faced betrayal by his brothers, false accusations, and years of imprisonment. But through it all, he trusted that God had a purpose for his life, even when he didn't understand the hardships he was enduring. In the end, God's plan was revealed, and Joseph became a key figure in saving many lives during a time of famine. His story teaches us that even in our darkest moments, God is orchestrating everything for a greater purpose that we might not fully understand until later. Trusting God's plan means that we don't have to have all the answers right now. We can choose to walk by faith, knowing that God is leading us even through the unknown. We don't need to control every outcome because we know that God who holds the universe in His hands is also holding our lives in His care. When you let go of the need to control and trust in his perfect plan, you can rest in the assurance that everything will unfold according to his will, and his will is always good. This trust also gives you the freedom to live with peace, knowing that your life is in the hands of a God who is faithful, loving, and wise. Trusting in God's plan allows you to move forward confidently, even when the future seems uncertain. It's the realization that his plan for your life is far better than anything you could have planned on your own. Therefore, instead of worrying about what you cannot control, you can place your full trust in the one who is already working all things together for your good. Trusting God with what you cannot control requires us to let go of the need for perfection. Many of us are conditioned to strive for perfection in every area of our lives, our work, relationships, health, and even our spiritual walk. We often feel as though everything must be flawless for things to be right. However, the reality is that perfection is an illusion, and attempting to control every aspect of our lives in pursuit of it only leads to frustration, stress, and burnout. God never promised perfection in this life, but he did promise to be with us through every situation, providing his strength, grace, and wisdom. Letting go of perfection also means accepting that there will be mistakes, setbacks, and challenges along the way. But this does not mean we have failed or that God has abandoned us. It means we are human, and God, in his infinite wisdom, is using those moments to refine us, strengthen our character, and draw us closer to him. Trusting God with the imperfections of life means choosing to focus not on the mistakes we make, but on his unwavering faithfulness. In the midst of our failures and flaws, he is always present, offering his mercy and grace. Matthew 6:34 encourages us, therefore do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. This verse reminds us not to become overwhelmed by the weight of trying to make everything perfect, especially when we are worried about future uncertainties. God's grace is sufficient for today. And we are not meant to carry the burden of tomorrow. Trusting God means letting go of the obsession with perfection and realizing that each day is an opportunity to walk by faith and trust in his provision and direction. Fear often stems from our attempt to control situations that we cannot predict or manage. We fear what might happen because we feel powerless to change the outcome. However, when we place our trust in God, we are reminded that he is sovereign over every detail of our lives, even those things that seem beyond our control. Psalm 34:4 says, I sought the Lord, and he answered me and delivered me from all my fears. When we seek God in the midst of uncertainty, he calms our hearts, alleviates our fear, and reassures us of his constant presence. It's important to recognize that fear doesn't just paralyze us, it also distorts our perspective. When we give in to fear, we focus on what could happen instead of trusting in what God will do. The Bible encourages us to cast all our cares on God because he cares for us, 1 Peter 5:7. This act of casting our anxieties onto God is an intentional choice to surrender our fears and trust in his ability to guide us through whatever lies ahead. God does not promise that life will be free of challenges or the unknown, but he promises that he will always be with us. He assures us that we don't have to carry the weight of the unknown alone. By trusting God with the unknown, we are free to face each day with faith, knowing that God is already there, already working, and already preparing a way. Instead of worrying about what we cannot control, we can step forward in courage and confidence, trusting that the God who is in control will lead us through the unknown with his wisdom, love, and strength. Fear fades when we place our trust in God's promises. The more we rely on God and surrender our fears, the more we experience peace that surpasses understanding. This peace allows us to live fully in the present, knowing that God will provide for our needs, protect us from harm, and guide us into the future he has prepared for us. In the face of uncertainty, trusting God offers us the confidence to move forward with boldness, leaving fear behind and embracing the hope that comes from knowing he is in control. Trusting God with what you cannot control requires a shift in your mindset from focusing on the limitations of your own strength to embracing the unlimited power of God's providence. We often find ourselves caught up in the cycle of trying to fix everything, striving to control the outcome of every situation, and yet we fail to see that our strength is finite. The more we attempt to handle things on our own, the more we burn out and feel overwhelmed. Trusting God means acknowledging that his power is far greater than ours, and that he is more than capable of handling every situation we face. Isaiah 55:8-9 tells us, for my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways. My ways, as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. This passage serves as a reminder that while we may not understand why certain things happen or how God will move, we can trust that his ways are always higher and better than ours. When we rely on his infinite wisdom and power, we allow ourselves to experience a deeper level of peace and trust in his perfect plan. Trusting God with what you cannot control ultimately leads to peace that surpasses all understanding. One of the most powerful aspects of trusting God is that it allows us to experience his peace even in the midst of chaos. So when we let go of our need to control the uncontrollable, we open the door for God's peace to flood our hearts. This peace is not based on the absence of trouble or uncertainty, but on the presence of God in the midst of it all. Philippians 4:6-7 offers us a beautiful promise: do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. When we choose to trust God with our anxieties, worries, and situations we cannot control, he gives us a peace that defies logic and human reasoning. This peace guards our hearts and minds, protecting us from the anxiety, stress, and fear that can overwhelm us when we try to carry everything on our own. In John 14:27, Jesus says, peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid. This peace that Jesus offers is a supernatural peace that comes from knowing he is in control, even when we feel out of control. When we trust God with what we cannot control, we allow his peace to rule in our hearts, replacing worry with confidence in his sovereignty. As you continue to trust God with what you cannot control, remember that his peace will guard your heart and mind. It will give you the strength to face each day with confidence and the assurance that no matter what comes, God is in control and he will never leave you. Trusting God leads to peace, and that peace will sustain you through every challenge, every trial, and every unknown. It is a peace that is available to you today as you surrender your worries and place your trust fully in him. Life can be overwhelming. Sometimes the challenges we face seem so insurmountable that we begin to question our ability to move forward. We wrestle, we strive, and we struggle, trying to carry the weight of our world on our shoulders. But I'm here to tell you something that can shift the entire way you approach your hardest moments. It's hard, but let God handle it. You see, challenges are not the enemy, they are the opportunity. God never promised that life would be without difficulty, but he did promise that he would walk with you through it all. The issue is we often try to solve problems that only the Creator has the power to fix. We forget that while we have limits, God is limitless. What is hard for you is simple for him. In the book of 2 Corinthians, we are reminded that his strength is made perfect in our weakness. This is not just a verse, it is a principle of life. The harder things get, the more opportunity you have to let God take control. But here's the key: you have to allow him. You must stop trying to solve everything in your own strength and step back. Surrendering your challenges to the one who created you and knows the path ahead better than you ever could. Let me be clear, trusting God doesn't mean you stop working, stop showing up, or stop caring. It means you stop stressing over things that are beyond your control. You do your part and you let God do his. When the battle is too big for you, it's time to hand it over to him. And here's a truth that is often forgotten: God is not late. He is never surprised by your circumstances. In fact, he has already gone ahead of you, preparing a way through the very situation you are in right now. You may not see it yet, but he is working behind the scenes. Your job is to trust him, to believe that his timing and his ways are far better than your own. Letting go is not a sign of giving up, it's a sign of growing up. It's understanding that the author of your life has the answers to questions you haven't even asked yet. God is the ultimate problem solver, the ultimate provider, and the ultimate healer. And when it becomes too heavy for you to bear, that's when his grace steps in to carry you the rest of the way. When you encounter struggles, it's easy to feel as though the weight of the world is on your shoulders. The natural reaction is to think, why me? But rather than seeing your challenges as obstacles, what if you began to see them as opportunities for growth? God doesn't allow anything into your life without purpose. There is purpose in your pain and growth in your struggle. Just like a diamond is formed under intense pressure, your true potential and strength are often revealed in moments of difficulty. The hardships you face are not sent to destroy you, but to prepare you for something greater. They serve as catalysts for transformation, propelling you toward the person God has created you to be. You remember, God's plan is never to crush you, but to develop you. As you walk through life's trials, keep in mind that these challenges are temporary seasons of difficulty that will pass. What remains is the growth, the strength, and the character that God builds in you through them. So, instead of running from challenges, face them with faith. You are not being broken, you are being built. God is using every trial, every setback, and every hardship to shape you into someone who can handle the future blessings He has in store. You may not understand it now, but in hindsight, you'll see that every challenge was a step forward, not a step back. So we live in a world that celebrates strength, independence, and self-sufficiency. We're often told to be strong, to push through on our own, and to never show weakness. But in the kingdom of God, weakness is not a flaw. It's an opportunity for His power to manifest in your life. So when you are weak, God shows up strong. In fact, the areas where you feel most inadequate are the very places where God desires to demonstrate His sufficiency. The Apostle Paul reminds us in 2 Corinthians 12:9, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." This is a profound truth that many miss. It is in your most vulnerable moments, when you've reached the end of your own strength, that God's strength comes alive. Your limitations don't limit God. Instead, they invite Him to step in and do what only He can do. Often we try to handle things ourselves, clinging to control because we believe we must have the answers or the ability to fix the problem. But the truth is, you don't have to have all the answers. You simply need to trust the one who does. Your weakness is not a reason to retreat or give up. It's a reminder that you are not walking this path alone. It's a signal to let go and allow God to take over. Imagine for a moment that you're carrying a heavy load, and as the weight becomes unbearable, someone offers to help. You wouldn't keep holding on to that load, you'd let them assist you. In the same way, God is asking you to let go of what you cannot carry so He can lift it for you. When you surrender, you make room for God's power to flow into your situation. When God takes over, He doesn't just give you strength, He gives you supernatural strength. He takes what seems impossible and makes it possible. He turns your moments of despair into moments of breakthrough. So instead of viewing your weakness as something to hide, view it as an invitation for God to show up mightily in your life. You remember, it's in your weakness that His power is perfected. Let Him take over, and you will see strength and solutions far beyond anything you could achieve on your own. Trusting God doesn't mean abandoning responsibility, but surrendering control. Many people confuse faith with passivity, thinking that trusting God means stepping back completely and doing nothing. But that's not the essence of true faith. God calls us to be active participants in our lives, using the gifts and abilities He has given us to handle our daily tasks. However, there's a crucial distinction between working with our own hands and attempting to control outcomes that are beyond our reach. When you trust God, you're not giving up responsibility for what He's entrusted to you. Instead, you're recognizing that while you do your part, God is ultimately in control of the results. It's about acknowledging that no matter how hard you work, how much effort you put in, or how carefully you plan, there are things that only God can make happen. He is the one who can open doors that no man can shut, bring favor where there seems to be none, and provide solutions that surpass human understanding. Surrendering control means releasing your need to manipulate or dictate how things should go. It's about laying down your need for certainty and being willing to say, God, I trust you with the outcome, whatever that may be. This kind of surrender is not a sign of weakness, but of maturity. It demonstrates that you understand your role as co-laborer with God, not as the sole architect of your destiny. Think of it this way: you can plant seeds, water them, and ensure they receive sunlight, but only God can make them grow. Your job is to tend to the garden. His job is to bring the increase. In life, you must take action and be diligent, but once you've done what you can, it's essential to let go of the outcome. It's in this place of surrender that God works most powerfully, orchestrating events and aligning things in ways you couldn't have imagined. Letting go of control doesn't mean you're doing less, it means you're doing more with God. It's a partnership, a relationship of trust where you do what you're able and trust Him to handle what you cannot. When you surrender control, you position yourself for the miraculous because you're no longer relying on your own strength or wisdom, but on God's infinite power and knowledge. See, when it's too hard for you, it's just right for God. In life, we all reach moments where we feel utterly overwhelmed, where the challenge in front of us seems insurmountable. These are the times when our strength runs out, when no amount of planning, effort, or strategy seems to work. It's easy in those moments to feel like giving up, to believe that because it's too hard for us, there's no way forward. But here's the truth: what is impossible for you is more than possible for God. God thrives in what looks impossible. The very things that cause us to worry, stress, and lose hope are often the moments when God is most ready to intervene. Our limitations are not limitations for Him. What may seem like an unscalable mountain to us is nothing but a stepping stone for God. When you reach the end of yourself, that's when God steps in with His limitless power. Think of it this way: if you could handle everything on your own, where would the need for faith be? Where would the need for God's divine intervention be? It's in the moments when we are most out of answers that God shows us He has had the solution all along. What we see as the end of the road is often just the beginning of His work. God doesn't ask us to do the impossible. He asks us to trust Him to do it. And while it might feel hard, remember that God is never overwhelmed, never intimidated, and never limited. When you face something too hard, that's the perfect opportunity to invite God in. He specializes in turning around situations that seem hopeless. What seems too heavy for you is light for Him. What seems too far gone is just the right time for Him to move. So, instead of letting difficulty discourage you, let it remind you of how big your God is. The harder it is for you, the greater the display of His power. If you're in a situation where it feels too hard, that's your cue to step back and let God step in. He is waiting to carry what you cannot, to fight the battles you can't win on your own, and to turn your hardest moments into testimonies of His grace and power. When it's too hard for you, it's just right for God. Faith grows strongest in moments of hardship. It's easy to have faith when life is smooth, when things are going your way, and when the path ahead is clear. But the true test of faith comes when circumstances turn difficult, when you can't see the way forward, when everything around you seems to be falling apart. It's in these moments when you feel like you're at the end of your rope that faith has the opportunity to deepen and grow. Hardship, as painful as it can be, is the soil in which strong faith is cultivated. When everything is going well, we may rely more on our own strength and less on God. But when the challenges come, when we're faced with situations that push us beyond our limits, we're forced to turn our eyes upward. It's in those moments of struggle that we begin to realize how much we truly need God, how dependent we are on His strength, His wisdom, and His timing. God often uses hardship to stretch us, to take our faith beyond its current boundaries. Like a muscle that grows stronger when it's stretched and challenged, our faith grows in similar ways. Each trial, each difficulty is an opportunity for us to trust God more fully, to lean not on our own understanding but on His. And as we navigate these tough times, something incredible happens. Our faith becomes more resilient, more unshakable. Think about it: faith that has never been tested remains fragile. But faith that has endured the storms of life, faith that has faced adversity and come through on the other side, is faith that can move mountains. It's not weakened by hardship, it's fortified by it. Each challenge becomes a stepping stone to deeper trust in God, knowing that if He has carried you through the past, He will certainly carry you through whatever comes next. So when hardship comes, instead of asking, why is this happening to me, start asking, what is God trying to build in me? Your faith will not be stagnant in times of difficulty. It will grow, expand, and flourish in ways that are impossible when life is easy. The hardship is not the end of faith. It is the very place where faith begins to soar. Faith grows strongest in moments of hardship, because it is then that we learn to rely on God completely, knowing that His promises are true, His presence is constant, and His strength will carry us through. Surrendering to God brings peace that surpasses all understanding. Life can often feel like a constant battle filled with stress, uncertainty, and anxiety. We try to control everything: our relationships, our careers, our futures, thinking that if we can just hold everything together, we'll find peace. But the reality is, the more we try to control, the more frustrated and anxious we become. True peace doesn't come from control, it comes from surrender. So when you surrender to God, you are not giving up, you're letting go. You're choosing to release the burden of trying to manage it all on your own. You're saying, God, I trust you more than I trust myself. I believe that you know what's best for me. This act of surrender opens the door to a peace that goes beyond human understanding, a peace that remains even in the midst of chaos. This peace is not based on circumstances, it's based on trust. It doesn't mean that everything will be easy or that you won't face challenges, but it means that in the middle of the storm, you can rest knowing that God is in control. It's the kind of peace that allows you to sleep like Jesus did during the storm, while the winds were raging and the waves were crashing against the boat. He wasn't worried because he knew that his Father had everything under control. Surrendering to God is an act of faith, and that faith brings peace. When you stop striving, stop trying to figure everything out, and let God handle what you cannot, you will experience a profound shift in your spirit. The weight lifts, the anxiety fades, and you begin to walk in a peace that you can't even fully explain. It's a peace that comes from knowing that the God who created the universe is holding your life in his hands. This peace is a gift that the world cannot give and the world cannot take away. No matter what comes your way, whether it's trials, uncertainties, or unexpected difficulties, you can walk through it with confidence, knowing that God is with you. The secret to living in peace is not in avoiding the hard times, but in surrendering to God during those times. When you let go, God steps in and his peace takes over. Surrender brings peace that surpasses all understanding, and it is this peace that will carry you through whatever life may bring. God can do more with your surrender than you can with your control. So often, we hold on to situations, trying to fix them ourselves, thinking that our own plans and efforts will bring the solution. So we strategize, we worry, we manipulate outcomes, all in an attempt to control the circumstances around us. But the truth is, our human efforts, no matter how sincere, are limited. We can only see so far, understand so much, and do so little in comparison to what God can accomplish. When we choose to surrender, we are not losing, we are gaining access to God's unlimited power and wisdom. Surrender is not a sign of defeat, but of trust. It's saying, God, I've done everything I can, but I realize now that my efforts are not enough. I need you to take over. In that moment, you open the door for God to move in ways you couldn't imagine. Think about it. God, who spoke the world into existence, who created everything with a word, is more than able to handle what you cannot. While we struggle with limited resources, God has infinite resources. While we stress over timelines, God holds time in his hands. And while we may be confused about the next step, God sees the entire picture from beginning to end. When you surrender to him, you release your small plans and allow his perfect plan to unfold. It may not look the way you expected, and it may not happen when you want it, but God's timing and methods are always better than ours. He can turn a situation around in ways that no human plan could. He can open doors that no one else can open and close doors that need to be shut. What's even more powerful is that when God steps in, he doesn't just fix the problem, he transforms it. He uses your challenges, your struggles, and even your mistakes to bring about something greater than you could have imagined. His plans are higher, his ways are better, and when you let go, you make room for him to do exceedingly and abundantly more than you could ever ask or think. So don't hold on so tightly to what you think you can control. God can do more with your surrender than you could ever do with your control. So when you release it into his hands, you will see miracles unfold, breakthroughs happen, and blessings that far surpass anything you could have orchestrated on your own. Trust him with your surrender and watch how he transforms your situation for his glory and your good. Your perspective changes when you trust God to handle it. The way you see your problems, challenges, and setbacks transforms entirely when you shift your focus from your limitations to God's limitless power. When you're trying to control everything yourself, your vision is narrow. You see only the immediate obstacles, the struggles, and the things that aren't going the way you plan. But when you trust God, your perspective expands. You begin to see beyond the present difficulty and understand that God is working behind the scenes in ways you cannot yet perceive. Trusting God changes how you view your circumstances. What once seemed like an impossible mountain to climb becomes a stepping stone toward a greater purpose. Instead of focusing on the problem, you start focusing on the possibilities that God can bring out of that problem. You stop seeing delays as denials and start seeing them as divine timing. What you once viewed as a setback, you now recognize as preparation for a greater blessing. When you trust God, you also begin to see yourself differently. You no longer view yourself as powerless or defeated by your circumstances. Instead, you see yourself as a child of God with access to his infinite power and wisdom. You realize that your identity is not in your failures or limitations, but in God's strength and provision. This shift in perspective allows you to approach life's challenges with confidence, knowing that God is for you and nothing can stand against you. Even in the midst of trials, you start to experience peace because you know that God is in control. You may not have all the answers, but you trust the one who does. You may not know how everything will work out, but you believe that God is working all things together for your good. This trust lifts the burden of worry and anxiety off your shoulders, allowing you to focus on what truly matters, walking in faith and obedience to God. Trusting God doesn't mean you'll never face difficulties, but it does mean that your outlook will change. You'll no longer be paralyzed by fear or doubt. Instead, you'll move forward with assurance, knowing that whatever happens, God has a plan, and his plan is always better than yours. This shift in perspective gives you hope and strength to endure, because you know that God is handling it, and he is faithful to complete the good work he has started in you. God's timing is always perfect, even when it feels delayed. In our fast-paced world, we're conditioned to expect instant results. We want answers, solutions, and breakthroughs immediately, and when things don't happen in the time frame we expect, we often grow frustrated or discouraged. But God's timing is not our timing. He operates outside of the limitations of human schedules and deadlines, working according to a divine plan that is far more intricate and perfect than we can comprehend. When we think God is delaying, he is actually preparing. What we perceive as a delay is often God aligning things in the background, moving pieces into place that we can't see. He is orchestrating events, preparing people, and setting the stage for his perfect purpose to unfold in your life. If he acted too soon or in the way we want him to, it could lead to outcomes that aren't in line with his ultimate plan. His timing ensures that when the breakthrough comes, it's not only the right moment, but also the right way, with everything perfectly aligned for his greater good. Trusting God's timing means understanding that his delays are not denials. It's in those waiting periods that our faith is stretched and refined. Waiting on God teaches us patience, deepens our reliance on him, and builds our character. It's during those times that he is also preparing us for what's ahead, preparing us to receive and handle the blessing when it finally arrives. Often the wait is about God shaping us into the people we need to become in order to step into the next season of our lives with wisdom, strength, and grace. Think about how many times in Scripture people had to wait for God's promises. Abraham waited for a son, Joseph waited to be freed from prison and elevated to power, and David waited years to become king after being anointed. In each of these cases, what seemed like a delay was actually God working behind the scenes to fulfill his perfect will. And when the appointed time came, the promise was fulfilled in ways that were far beyond what they could have imagined. So when you feel like things aren't happening quickly enough, remember that God's timing is always perfect. He is never late. What may seem like a delay is part of his greater plan. Trust that he knows the exact moment when everything will come together for your good. In his time, every promise will be fulfilled, every prayer answered, and every need met in ways that will not only bless you, but glorify him. God can turn your pain into purpose. Life is filled with challenges and hardships that often leave us feeling broken, lost, or defeated. It's easy to view our struggles as mere obstacles or burdens that weigh us down. However, when we surrender our pain to God, he has the incredible ability to transform that pain into a powerful purpose. What we see as suffering, God can use as a stepping stone to something greater. Pain has a way of teaching us profound lessons that we might not learn otherwise. It can lead to personal growth, increased empathy, and a deeper understanding of ourselves and others. When we experience hardship, we often become more sensitive to the struggles of those around us. This newfound empathy can empower us to help others who are going through similar situations. In this way, our pain becomes a bridge to connect with others, allowing us to minister to them and share God's love in tangible ways. Moreover, God specializes in redeeming what is broken. He takes our scars and uses them as testimonies of his grace and faithfulness. The very things that have caused us pain can become the source of our greatest ministry. Think about the story of Joseph, who was sold into slavery by his brothers and faced numerous hardships throughout his life. Yet through it all, God was preparing him for a significant purpose, saving many lives during a time of famine. Joseph's pain became his platform for purpose, enabling him to fulfill God's plan in a way that he could never have imagined. When we allow God to turn our pain into purpose, we open ourselves up to a life of meaning and impact. Our experiences can become the foundation upon which we build a ministry that helps others find hope in their own struggles. We learn to embrace our pain as part of our journey, knowing that God is weaving our story together for his glory. So rather than viewing your pain as something to be avoided or hidden, see it as an opportunity for God to work. When you trust him to handle it, you can rest assured that he is actively using your experiences for a greater purpose. God can turn your pain into purpose, and when you allow him to do so, you become a vessel of hope, healing, and inspiration to those around you. Your story can encourage others to trust in God, reminding them that even in their darkest moments, there is a light of purpose waiting to shine through. Every new day is a fresh opportunity, an opportunity to make an impact, to change your circumstances, and to walk in the purpose God has for you. But here's the key: how you begin your day will determine how you navigate through it. When you commit your day to God, you align your heart, mind, and actions with his divine will. Without this connection, even the best of intentions can fall short. Today, I want to reveal a profound truth from the Bible. Your day was never meant to be a series of random events. It was designed by a purposeful sovereign God. In the next few moments, I'm going to show you how committing your day to God can unlock his blessings, guidance, and protection in ways you've never experienced before. If you want your life to be full of peace, direction, and success, then you must commit your day with God, and today you'll learn how. It's the moment you wake up, you have two choices. You can try to go it alone, relying on your own strength and understanding, or you can commit your day to God, acknowledging that he is the source of everything you need. The Bible says in Proverbs 3:6, "In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight." His commitment isn't about just asking God to bless your plans. It's about aligning your plans with his. Trusting him with every part of your day, from your work to your relationships, from your decisions to your thoughts. It's an invitation for God to take the lead. Before your feet hit the floor, speak to God. The Bible teaches us to pray without ceasing, 1 Thessalonians 5:17, but there's power in dedicating the beginning of your day to him. Jesus modeled this in Mark 1:35, where he rose early to pray and commit his day to the Father. So by praying in the morning, you set the tone for your day. You are saying, God, I surrender my plans, my agenda, and my decisions to you. In return, he will lead you with wisdom, peace, and strength. When you commit your day to God, you must do so with faith. Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen, Hebrews 11:1. Trusting God with your day means believing that he will direct your steps even when you can't see the whole picture. Your faith activates God's promises in your life. When you start your day with faith, you open the door for God's supernatural guidance and blessing. Every day brings new decisions, new challenges, and new opportunities. That's why we need God's wisdom. James 1:5 tells us that if anyone lacks wisdom, they should ask of God. God promises to give it generously to those who ask in faith. As you commit your day to God, ask him to guide you with his wisdom. His wisdom will help you make decisions that align with his purpose and bring you success. Without it, we can easily be misled by our own desires or the distractions of the world. When you commit your day to God, you also invite his protection. The Bible assures us in Psalm 91:11 that God will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. As you step out into the world, know that God is with you, shielding you from harm and guiding you through any dangers. Gratitude is a powerful weapon. When you thank God for another day, you recognize his provision, his grace, and his faithfulness. Psalm 104 calls us to enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Gratitude sets the right attitude for your day and invites God's presence into your heart and circumstances. Finally, committing your day with God helps you live with an eternal perspective. Every action, every choice, and every word has eternal significance. When you commit your day to God, you are not just thinking about the here and now, you are considering how your actions today will impact your eternal destiny. The power of your day is in your hands. You can either face it alone or invite the creator of the universe to guide and bless every step. I challenge you today, begin each day by committing it to God. You watch as he transforms your life, bringing peace, purpose, and direction into every area. Every new day is a fresh opportunity, an opportunity to make an impact, to change your circumstances, and to walk in the purpose God has for you. But here's the key: how you begin your day will determine how you navigate through it. The moment you open your eyes in the morning, you are faced with the choice of how to approach the day ahead. Will you rush into it, consumed by your to-do list, distracted by your worries, or will you pause, reflect, and commit the day to the one who created it? The Bible makes it clear that the day belongs to God and that we are to steward it well. The psalmist declares, "This is the day that the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it." Psalm 118:24. When we start our day by acknowledging God, we acknowledge his sovereignty over everything that is to come. We admit that without him, our efforts are in vain. But with him, Every task becomes meaningful, every interaction is purposeful, and every moment is filled with His potential. Even when you commit your day to God, you're not just giving Him a part of your time, you're giving Him your full attention. You are inviting His wisdom, His peace, and His protection into every aspect of your life. It's a conscious decision to say, God, I trust you with everything I will face today, and I place my plans, my desires, and my worries into your hands. This commitment isn't just about asking God to bless your day, it's about surrendering to His greater plan. It's about choosing His will over your own, His peace over anxiety, and His strength over your own limitations. Now, you might be wondering, why is this so important? It's simple. When you commit your day to God, you align yourself with His divine purpose. You remove the chaos, the confusion, and the distractions that life throws at you, and you center yourself on what truly matters. Instead of rushing into the day with anxiety or uncertainty, you step into it with a sense of peace, knowing that God is leading you every step of the way. When you make this commitment a daily practice, you start to see everything differently. Your challenges become opportunities for growth. Your struggles become a platform for God's strength, and your victories become a reflection of His faithfulness. So as we explore today how to commit your day to God, I want to challenge you, make this choice daily. This one decision can change the course of your entire day and ultimately your entire life. God is waiting to direct your steps, guide your heart, and bless every moment of your day, but you must be willing to invite Him into it. By the end of this speech, I hope you'll be ready to embrace this powerful truth and start each day with a heart that's fully committed to God's purposes. The moment you wake up in the morning, before your feet even touch the ground, your mind begins to race with the thoughts of what's ahead. You think about your responsibilities, your challenges, your hopes for the day. But let me tell you this, the quality of your day is determined by the attitude with which you approach it. Will you try to go it alone, relying on your own understanding and strength, or will you choose to acknowledge that God, who has already ordained your steps, is the true author of your day? In the Bible, we see that God has already planned each day for us. Psalm 139:16 says, "Your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be." Before you even open your eyes, God knows exactly what today holds. He knows the challenges you will face, the victories you will achieve, and the lessons you will learn. But He also knows the best way for you to navigate these moments, and it begins with you acknowledging Him. When you start your day by committing it to God, you are saying, "Lord, I know that my plans and desires are fleeting, but your will is perfect. I invite you to guide my steps and lead me according to your purpose today." This is a powerful shift that allows you to let go of your own attempts at control and surrender your agenda to God. Instead of rushing into your day filled with anxiety or fear of the unknown, you can step forward in faith, trusting that God has already laid out a path for you that leads to peace and success. The Bible says in Proverbs 16:9, "In their hearts humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps." When you commit your day to God, you're allowing Him to establish your steps. You're saying, "God, I trust you to order my day in a way that brings glory to you and fulfills your purpose in my life." This is not just a prayer for God's blessing over your day. It's a complete surrender of control, an acknowledgement that God knows what's best, even when you don't. See, by starting your day with this commitment, you open yourself to God's guidance in ways you cannot imagine. When you acknowledge Him, He becomes actively involved in your decisions, your actions, and your interactions. When challenges arise, you won't face them alone. When opportunities present themselves, you'll know how to move forward with wisdom and clarity. And when distractions try to pull you off course, His peace will guard your heart and mind, keeping you steady and focused on what truly matters. So as you begin your day, remember that committing it to God isn't just a suggestion, it's the key to living in His will and experiencing His abundant blessings. Trust Him with your day and watch as He directs your steps in ways that lead to success, peace, and fulfillment. Committing your day to God isn't just a one-time act, it's a daily habit that requires intentionality and consistency. The truth is, many of us rush into our day without taking the time to first align ourselves with God. We go from one task to the next, trying to meet deadlines, fulfill obligations, and manage the demands of our lives. But when you start your day without committing it to God, you risk walking through it in your own strength, relying on your limited wisdom and ability to handle what comes your way. This is why it's so crucial to begin your day with a moment of surrender. In Matthew 6:33, Jesus gives us a powerful principle, but seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added to you. The act of seeking God first isn't just about placing him at the beginning of your day, it's about placing him at the center of everything. It's about making God the foundation upon which everything else is built. When you commit your day to God, you are inviting him to lead you, guide you, and equip you for every challenge, decision, and relationship you will encounter throughout the day. The Bible also teaches us that we can do nothing without God. John 15:5 reminds us, I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. This is a powerful reminder that we are completely dependent on God for strength, wisdom, guidance. When we try to do things on our own, we can only go so far. But when we commit our day to God, we are acknowledging our dependence on him. We recognize that without him, we are like a branch that cannot bear fruit. But when we remain connected to him, we are empowered to accomplish great things for his kingdom. You may be wondering, how do I commit my day to God? It's simple. Start with prayer. Before you check your phone, start your coffee, or jump into the busyness of your day, take a moment to pray. Ask God to direct your steps, to give you wisdom for the decisions you will make, and to fill you with peace in the midst of your responsibilities. Surrender your plans to him and trust that he will guide you in the right direction. As you pray, remember that you're not just asking God to bless your day, you're giving your day to him. You're saying, God, I trust you with everything that's ahead. Lead me, guide me, and use me according to your will. By making this a daily practice, you will begin to notice a shift in your perspective. Instead of feeling overwhelmed or scattered, you will feel more focused and intentional. You will approach each task with a sense of purpose, knowing that God is with you, helping you every step of the way. And even when challenges arise, you will have peace, knowing that God has already gone before you and prepared the way. So when you commit your day to God, you are choosing to trust him with the details of your life. The Bible teaches us in Philippians 4:6-7 to not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, we should present our requests to God. This act of surrender is not just a moment of asking for God's help, but a declaration of faith that he is fully in control and will handle the things we cannot. Life can often feel like a whirlwind of tasks, responsibilities, and challenges that seem to multiply with every passing hour. You might feel overwhelmed by the pressure of meeting deadlines, managing relationships, or solving problems. But when you commit your day to God, you shift your perspective. You are no longer relying on your own understanding or ability to manage it all. Instead, you acknowledge that God is in control and he is bigger than every circumstance you face. God's word in Isaiah 55:8-9 reminds us, for my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. When you commit your day to God, you are stepping into his divine wisdom and understanding. You are saying, Lord, I trust that your plan for my life is greater than my own. I give you my concerns, and I trust you to work everything out according to your will. His trust is foundational for peace. By surrendering your plans to God, you no longer need to carry the weight of trying to control everything. You release yourself from the anxiety of what's ahead, knowing that God is already ahead of you. This trust allows you to walk in peace, even in the midst of challenging situations. When you face uncertainty, you can rest assured that God has already ordained your path and is with you every step of the way. Moreover, committing your day to God also allows you to remain in a posture of gratitude. Instead of focusing on what you don't have or what you haven't yet accomplished, you focus on the blessings he has already provided. Even when challenges come, you can thank God for his presence, his guidance, and the strength he gives to face each obstacle. This act of thanksgiving aligns your heart with God's purposes. It opens the door to experiencing his peace and joy throughout your day. So when you place your trust in God, you don't just hand over your struggles, you invite his presence into every part of your day. Whether you're dealing with the mundane or facing significant challenges, this will guard your heart and mind, Philippians 4:7. And that peace, which surpasses all understanding, will help you navigate every moment of your day with confidence, knowing that the creator of the universe is walking with you. So when you commit your day to God, you are not just acknowledging that he is in control, but you are also making the choice to let go of your worries, surrender your plans, and trust that he will work everything out for your good. You can approach each day with a heart full of peace, knowing that God is always with you. When you commit your day to God, you are positioning yourself to live in alignment with His will and purpose for your life. God has a divine plan for each day, each moment, and each decision you make. The Bible tells us in Jeremiah 29:11, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for welfare and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope." This verse is a powerful reminder that God's plan for you is good, and when you commit your day to Him, you are stepping into that plan. Committing your day to God means you are surrendering your own desires, your personal ambitions, and your preconceived notions about what the day should look like. You are saying, "God, I trust that your plans are better than my own, and I am willing to follow your lead. Even when I don't understand the road ahead, it's about choosing God's will over your own, His ways over your preferences, and His timing over your impatience." The Bible also teaches us in Proverbs 3:5-6, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make straight your paths." This is a call to acknowledge God in every area of your life, not just in the big moments, but in the everyday decisions, tasks, and interactions. When you commit your day to God, you are acknowledging that He is the one who can guide you, direct you, and make your path straight. You're inviting His wisdom into your daily activities, trusting that He will lead you to make the right choices, handle challenges with grace, and seize opportunities as they come. Living in alignment with God's will also means that you are prepared for whatever comes your way. Life has a way of throwing curveballs, unexpected challenges, interruptions, and distractions. But when you commit your day to God, you are choosing to face those moments with the assurance that He is in control. You are confident that no matter what happens, God is already ahead of you, working all things together for your good. Romans 8:28. Moreover, aligning your day with God's purpose ensures that you will live with a greater sense of fulfillment and joy. Too often we pursue our own goals and dreams only to find that they don't bring the satisfaction or peace we were hoping for. But when you commit your day to God, you are saying, "God, I want to fulfill your purpose for my life today, not just my own plans." This leads to a life that is filled with purpose, peace, and joy, because you are living in alignment with the Creator of the universe, who knows what's best for you. So by committing your day to God, you are stepping into a divine alignment that leads to a life of fulfillment. You are acknowledging His plans for you, trusting His guidance, and choosing to walk in His will. Each day becomes a step closer to fulfilling the unique purpose God has for your life, and you can walk forward with confidence, knowing that He is leading you every step of the way. Committing your day to God also means cultivating a heart of gratitude and worship throughout your day. This doesn't just happen at the beginning of the day when you commit your plans to God, but it continues as you move through each moment, recognizing His presence and thanking Him for His constant guidance. The Bible instructs us to give thanks in all circumstances. Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. 1 Thessalonians 5:18. When you start your day by committing it to God, you are intentionally placing yourself in a posture of gratitude. This isn't just about thanking God for what He has already done, but also about thanking Him for what He is going to do in your life that day. This act of thanksgiving acknowledges that God is in control, and it opens the door for His blessings to flow freely into your life. Gratitude shifts your focus from your problems to God's power, from your circumstances to His faithfulness. When you commit your day to God, you are recognizing that everything you have, everything you will face, and everything you will accomplish is a result of His grace and provision. This attitude of gratitude not only strengthens your relationship with God, but also helps you approach each day with a positive, hopeful mindset. Instead of dreading the task ahead or worrying about potential setbacks, you can walk forward with joy and anticipation, knowing that God is already working in your favor. Philippians 4:7 encourages us, "Rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again, rejoice. Let your gentleness be evident to all. The Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." As you continue throughout your day, keep your heart focused on God's goodness, praising Him for His presence, His guidance, and His wisdom. When you face challenges, you can thank God for His strength to overcome. When things go well, you can thank him for his blessings. This constant posture of gratitude transforms your day from something you just need to get through into a day of worship where every action becomes an offering to God. Committing your day to God in this way changes the way you experience life. You begin to see God's hand in the smallest of details, in a kind word from a friend, in a solution to a problem, in the beauty of creation around you. Each moment becomes an opportunity to acknowledge God and offer thanks, turning even the mundane into an act of worship. In a world filled with distractions and struggles, cultivating this heart of gratitude allows you to stay grounded in God's presence, which in turn brings peace and joy to your day. It helps you maintain the right perspective, keeping you focused on what truly matters. And as you walk in gratitude, you will see that the challenges of the day are no longer obstacles to overcome, but opportunities for God to display his power, provision, and love. Committing your day to God also means embracing his peace and strength, no matter the circumstances. Life is full of unexpected challenges, moments of stress, and overwhelming situations. The pressures of work, relationships, and daily responsibilities can often feel like they are weighing us down. But when you commit your day to God, you invite his peace into your life, allowing you to navigate those challenges with a calm and steady spirit. In John 14:27, Jesus says, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid." Jesus offers a peace that transcends the stress and turbulence of daily life. This peace is not the absence of problems, but rather the presence of God's comforting and strengthening power in the midst of them. When you commit your day to God, you are opening yourself up to that peace which guards your heart and mind from the anxiety that can easily overwhelm you. This peace is not just about feeling calm when everything is going well, but it's a deep-seated assurance that no matter what happens, God is in control, and he will provide the strength you need to face whatever comes your way. When you start your day by committing it to God, you are choosing to walk in his peace, trusting that he is with you every step of the way, ready to guide you through the challenges and provide the wisdom and strength you need to overcome them. Isaiah 41:10 offers another powerful reminder of God's presence and said, "Peace, so do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." When you commit your day to God, you are acknowledging that he is with you in every situation, offering his help and his strength to carry you through. You don't have to rely on your own strength or understanding, because God is there to strengthen you and uphold you. This doesn't mean that difficulties won't come your way. They certainly will. But when you commit your day to God, you are setting yourself up to experience his peace, even in the midst of the storm. You are choosing to lean on his strength, knowing that he will carry you through. Whether you are facing a challenging meeting at work, a difficult conversation with a loved one, or simply the pressures of daily life, you can face each moment with confidence, knowing that God's peace is available to you. Moreover, God's peace empowers you to respond to situations with patience, grace, and wisdom. Instead of reacting out of frustration or anxiety, you can choose to respond with calm assurance, knowing that God is guiding your steps. This peace also allows you to focus on what really matters: God's presence, his will, and his purpose for your life, rather than being distracted by the temporary troubles of the day. So when you commit your day to God, you invite his peace and strength to accompany you throughout the day. You choose to trust him with the challenges you face, knowing that his peace will guard your heart, his strength will carry you, and his presence will never leave you. With God by your side, you can face anything that comes your way with confidence and peace. Committing your day to God is not just about seeking his peace, his guidance, or his strength. It's also about living out his purpose for your life each and every day. God has a unique calling and purpose for every person, and when you commit your day to him, you are actively seeking to fulfill that purpose in whatever you do. This requires a daily decision to prioritize God's will over your own, to align your actions, your thoughts, and your attitudes with his divine plan for your life. In Ephesians 2:10, the Bible reminds us, "For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do." This verse highlights the truth that God has already set apart specific work for us to do. When you commit your day to God, you are inviting him to use you as his instrument to carry out his will through your actions, words, and decisions. Every task, no matter how small, can become a part of fulfilling God's purpose for your life. By committing your day to God, you are surrendering your agenda and making room for his plans to unfold. It's a conscious choice to allow God to direct your steps, to open your eyes to opportunities to serve him. and to guide your heart toward the people and situations where he can use you. Even in your everyday tasks, whether at work, with family, or in your community, God can use you to make an impact. Committing your day means acknowledging that every moment is an opportunity to live out his purpose. This also means that as you align with God's purpose, your life becomes more meaningful and fulfilling. When you are in tune with God's will, you experience a deeper sense of satisfaction and peace because you are walking in the purpose for which you were created. In Psalm 37:4, we are encouraged to delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. This promise reminds us that when we seek God first and commit our ways to him, he will align our desires with his will. And we will find joy and fulfillment in the work he has prepared for us. The more we commit our day to God, the more we reflect his love, compassion, and truth to those around us. Whether through a kind word, an act of service, or simply by living with integrity, our lives become a testimony of God's goodness and grace. As Jesus said in Matthew 5:16, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Ultimately, committing your day to God means surrendering your life to his divine purpose. It's about choosing to live in alignment with his will, allowing him to guide you and use you to impact the world around you. Every day is a fresh opportunity to live for him and to fulfill the good works he has already prepared for you. When you commit your day to God, you are not just asking for his help or blessing, you are inviting him to lead you on a journey that will fulfill his purpose for your life.